All right, all right. Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Building Black podcast and Facebook Live. My name is Katie Rodriguez.
I am Marvelyn Brenton Shivers.
And thank you for joining us. So we're going to get started in just a few. We just have to get ourselves set up properly, make sure everybody can hear us. If you all can hear us, drop a yes in the comments. Let us know you can hear us okay. We're going to share ourselves to the Building Black community. We're going to ask all of you guys to share this video. If you value these conversations and you're valuing what we're doing, we're going to ask you to share it as well onto your Facebook page. So we're going to get started in just a minute.
Only to my page, but I want to share it to the back page.
You need me to do it?
Try and see if you can do it.
Okay. Can I even see myself? Okay.
Sure.
Black podcast and Facebook. Okay. So we're gonna get started. Share to group. Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Let us know if you all can hear us. If you're watching, let us know you can hear us. Say, I can hear you, I can see you. We want to make sure that you all can hear us and see us okay. You see, we got our little mic set up. We're trying to be official.
We're trying.
Official podcast.
Absolutely. It's expensive work.
So let us know if you can hear us. And then we're going to get started. So just drop a yes in the comment. Say hello. Let us know where you're coming from. All right. Jason says video looks good. Jason, can you hear us okay? I think we're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you can
I
hear us.
think we get started.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I will do my official podcast welcome because we are officially a podcast. We are officially on Spotify.
Absolutely,
So you can look
yes.
us up on Spotify, the Building Black podcast. We are
It is
officially
official.
on Anchor. We will be on Apple soon. But we are officially a podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome our podcast community. So our podcast community, welcome to the Building Black podcast. So just so you all know, the Building Black podcast is a podcast about building Black health, Black wealth, and Black love in our community. So our goal is to help Black people to overcome the implications of racism and oppression so that we can go from essentially surviving, which is what we've had to do, to thriving. And the way that we do this is through educational conversations, guest experts, and difficult dialogues. And Marv, I think today might be a little bit of a difficult dialogue.
Absolutely. I actually didn't want to do this topic.
She didn't want to do it. I said we
this
needed to
topic.
do it because it's trending right now. And
It's
Marv's
necessary.
like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
but
we
it's
don't-
necessary.
Right,
It's necessary.
right. So we really empower our listeners to focus on how we can heal ourselves as a community, as a collective, and to heal our community through learning how to manage their health, their wealth, and their love. We want to make us from victims to victors. So we focus less on the acts of violence, the acts of oppression, white people, and more on ourselves.
Solutions.
Yeah, solutions and how we can build ourselves up as
Absolutely.
a result of all that we have endured and
But we still
experienced.
acknowledge all of that.
Yeah, we still acknowledge it. We don't want to deny it, but we want to figure out how can we move past it.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, Nydia. Good to see you. All right. So, did we introduce ourselves? My
We
name is
did.
Heidi
We
Rodriguez.
did.
I'm a therapist with SerenityWellnessandTherapy.com.
And I'm Marvelyn Brenton. We introduced
We did.
ourselves.
Well, to the podcast community.
My name is Marvelyn Brenton.
Shivers.
Shivers. I am a life and a relationship coach here
Mhm.
at Serenity Wellness. And that's about it.
And you just opened a side hustle.
And I
as
have
well.
a side hustle, yes.
Mhm.
A cleaning business. So fresh, so clean cleaning services.
How do they find you?
You can find us. We have a website. You can visit thefreshsoclean.com.
Yes.
And we also have a Instagram page, the SFSC.
That's that plug right there.
Yes.
All right.
Always.
So our topic for today. Hey, Jonathan, I see you out there. So our topic for today is protecting Black women. So we felt like, there's so much to this topic, so many layers, and we do have some solutions for you all. We also have some questions for you all. But before we get into the solutions, the questions, we can't look at why this narrative has even become a narrative without acknowledging the history. So there's a real historical element to this, to why Black women feel unprotected. You want to kind of just?
You want me to start?
Yeah, you can talk about it.
I mean,
just the slave portion on slavery.
Okay, so basically, slavery, I think, is where it all started. Of course, that's the history.
Right.
And it starts with the breakdown of the Black family during slavery, where Black men were unable to protect Black women. And I think that, well, we think that we never recovered from that time.
Right.
And it just has kept going.
Right. It's kept
up until today.
Right.
Yeah.
So, keeping history in mind, we want to kind of give the historical reference for this theory. So, how many of you all, if you are familiar with the Willie Lynch letter, put a 1 in the comments, or a hello in the comments, or I am familiar with it in the comments. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with this Willie Lynch letter, and I think it's also been converted into a book. But we want to start with a reference of that for those of you who might not be familiar. So essentially this Willie Lynch letter, this was a speech that was said to have been delivered by Willie Lynch on the banks of the James River in Virginia back in 1712. Mm-hmm. So Willie Lynch, he was a British slave owner in the Caribbean and in the West Indies. And so he was invited by the colony of Virginia to help him for him to teach them how to better manage their slaves. So they brought him in because he was doing well as a slave owner, and his job was to educate them on how to manage their slaves. And I will say that there is some controversy around this letter. There are some people that say that it's a real letter, authentic, and there are those who say that it was contrived in the 21st century, maybe 1990s, 1980s, to explain how slavery happened, but kind of retroactively. But whether it was, let's say that it's real, it does explain what happened historically. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit of it and you all can hear. So he says, this is the beginning here. I have a foolproof method for controlling your Black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. All right. So then he drops down and starts talking about the relationship between Black man and Black woman. We have reversed the relationship. In her natural uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male. So he's talking about the Black woman. And she would have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring and would raise male offspring to be dependent like her. So essentially he's saying if in her natural state, outside of being broken as a slave, she would have a dependency to be more dependent on her man and would teach her sons to be dependent or to be independent.
Right.
All right. Nature provided for this type of balance. So that's how it's supposed to be. Woman is supposed to be dependent on the man. This is what he's saying. Okay. We reverse that nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the others to the point of death, all in her presence.
Wow.
So it was strategic. We broke her. They said we broke her by pulling one of the strongest men apart and then breaking the other ones in front of her.
In front of her, right.
By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from psychologically dependent on her man to a frozen stage. So she moved from seeing that, she went from dependent on her man, trusting in her man, to independent. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and her female offspring in reverse roles. For fear of the young man's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become physically independent, she will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics.
Wow.
What do you think about that, Mark?
Ooh. I don't know. I want to ask the Black men that are on. We see a few. Jason T. What
Jonathan.
Jonathan. what do you feel, or what comes to mind when you hear that? How does that make you feel? And I also thought it was interesting that even before you started, the passage kind of said that this is a way to control slaves for at least 300 years. That, and it's true.
Right.
There's truth to that.
Yep.
So I'm curious.
The amount of time that we've been oppressed.
Right, and still suffering from the things that were put in place.
Right. Right. So T said he is familiar with the Willie Lynch letter. So you all having heard that, men and women, but particularly we want to hear from the men. When you see something like that, how does it make you feel? What are your thoughts about it? To me, it's just mind blowing.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that it is the perfect breakdown of essentially what has happened to us. And that's why some people say it wasn't really written at that time. It was written now to explain what happened at that time, of how black women have become very dependent or independent, and the black man is not so dependent.
Right.
I gotta fix this mic here. Let's see. We've been having trouble with this mic, y'all. So, any thoughts on that?
At all, black men and women.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
For our podcasters out there, so we are, those of you who are listening via Spotify, Apple, we are recording via Facebook Live in our Facebook group, The Building Black Community. So you can go to Facebook, search The Building Black Community, and request to join, and then you can be a part of these conversations live, so we can hear your comments. So when we're asking people what their thoughts are, we are there on Facebook, and we're engaging with them live. Okay? So we don't have any comments thus far about the Willie Lynch letter, but we'll come back to it, give people time. So the next thing we want to go on to, so we looked at the historical reference. Now let's talk about why black women are feeling unprotected now.
Right.
So what I've gathered, and Marv, I don't know if you agree, but what I've gathered in my conversations is that individually, do we have a comment?
Yeah, we have a comment. He
Okay.
says it's another example of why we are such a strong people. Absolutely, I agree with that. Because we've come so far and we've overcame so much.
Right.
And still overcoming. That's
Yeah,
what we do.
it was strategic for us to be not just killed, genocide, but for us to be broken,
Right.
mentally and psychologically broken.
Right.
But yet and still, we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're figuring out how to thrive.
Yep. Every day. Yep.
He said, who's gone through what we've gone through? Right. So, going back to why we feel unprotected now, what I've gathered in my conversations, Marv, you tell me if you agree, is that a majority of the women that I would speak to, and me myself, individually, on an individual level, we feel protected. I feel protected by the individual men around me. So, my brother, my dad, my male cousins, all the people close to me, the black men close to me, I know they would protect me. Would you agree?
I agree with that.
You agree with that. So
Yes.
you feel protected by those men that are close to you.
Around,
But as a collective, on a larger scale, we don't feel protected by the black community. So I can't say with certainty that a black man that I don't know, if he saw someone trying to do harm to me, that he would jump in and make sure that I'm good.
Right.
I can't say that.
Right.
So
it's on the community level.
right. So there's this on the large scale, we don't feel protected.
Right. Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, Marv?
I agree with that. I think that, when black women come out and say certain things, we're not believed. When we speak out about an experience, we're not believed. We're often brushed off. We're often ignored. What is it? The victim shaming. We're often
when we speak about
blamed.
what's happened to us, they blame us. What was she wearing? What did she do to start the argument?
Right. So I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, we don't feel, or I don't feel protected as a whole.
Right. So
because of those reasons.
Right. So it's more of a collective thing than an individual thing.
Right.
Now, I would like to hear if any of the ladies are watching. Would you agree with that? That you feel individually protected, or from on an individual basis, the men that you know, the men that are close to you, you feel that they would protect you, but it's more of a community and collective problem as to why you don't feel protected. You can't say with certainty that a man that's out there on the streets would do right by you, would defend you, would speak right about you,
stick up for you,
right. not attack you.
That too, yeah,
right.
That's true.
So now we want to hear from the ladies. Do you all agree? And is that kind of your perspective when it comes to part of why Black women feel unprotected? Now, while we're waiting for those answers, I want to give you some other additional examples about this whole collective thing.
Right.
So one of our Building Black community members, I was having a conversation with her. Her name is Karen Robinson. Karen, shout out. I appreciate our conversation. She really schooled me to some of the historical references or more recent historical references of why Black women are unprotected. So when we look at some of our civil rights legends, Black women who put their necks out on the line for the collective, put their necks out there, put their lives out there on the line, they weren't protected either. So we can talk about Rosa Parks. So Rosa Parks, back in the 90s, she was about, I think, 81 years old in Detroit, living in a relatively unsafe area. And people knew who she was. She was Rosa Parks. And the man a man broke into her house, Black man broke into her house and robbed her. And she went to the hospital. She didn't sustain any serious injuries, but he did attack her and rob her. And when he saw her, I looked it up. He said, aren't you Rosa Parks? And he still proceeded to rob her.
Wow.
Now the interesting thing is this man, he's been busy because his name came up again in the headlines in 2020. I think it was in February that he had attacked another older Black woman.
Wow.
Even after he had been in prison for a while after the incident with Rosa Parks, but he had some issues. But the community who knew who she was, this Black man knew who she was. They knew what sacrifices that she made, and yet she still wasn't protected. Now we go, and here's the real kicker. She was in an unsafe area. She got robbed, and then what ended up happening, a white man, I believe he was, his name was Mike Illich, owner of Tigers. He ended up taking her and putting her up in an apartment in a safer area.
Wow.
Not her community, not the Black people. White man took her and put her into a safer apartment.
Volumes. Yeah.
I think it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we go to Angela Davis. Okay.
Oh, there's more. Yeah.
There's more.
Yeah.
Angela Davis, she was in prison as a result of her activism.
Yep.
She was in prison.
Yep.
She was bailed out by a white farmer. Okay, you can Google this.
Right.
And then Karen was also talking about how Betty Shabazz, after Malcolm X died, her and her 4 kids it almost went hungry, and there was no Nation of Islam, no Black community that came in and said, we're gonna wrap our arms around you and make sure that you're good.
Right.
Because you kind of gave the ultimate sacrifice in your husband being a martyr in this movement.
Right.
So these are just some examples of what our women have had to endure, and I feel like if prominent women,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So even the more for just regular old,
right,
right, you and me,
yeah, exactly,
without being protected by our community.
Yeah.
So those are just some examples, and again, I'm sure the individuals in their lives might have protected them, but we're talking about the collective, the community as a whole. All right.
Right.
So what we want to know now, do we have any comments with that?
We just had Jason that said, no weapon formed against us will prosper.
Okay.
Yeah. Read, Jason.
Yes. Bring out that Bible. No weapon formed against us shall prosper.
Exactly.
We also want to hear from the Black men. How does it make you feel when you hear that we don't feel protected.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So not that whether we are protected or not, when you hear women say they don't feel protected, Black women don't feel protected, what does that bring up for you? What's that like for you to hear it?
And you've had to have heard it
Right.
over and over again. We keep saying it. We've been saying it for years that we
Right.
don't feel protected. And yeah, I'm curious to know too how you guys feel about that.
Right.
Or how does it make you feel?
And only until more recently has it become something that's it's come up again in the forefront with some of these trending conversations around Meg Thee Stallion and being shot and
right. We spoke about that last week. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when you all hear that, there goes the mic. Yeah. Mark told me this might happen.
I did.
And I said, if it happens, we're just gonna hold it. We're just gonna hold this mic here.
I'll hold it for a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch back.
All right. So, T said it makes him feel helpless and frustrated. Well, we wanna. This is our little part in trying to address that feeling of helplessness and frustration because it's a large scale problem. But I think there are solutions to it.
I think so too.
So we're going to talk about some of the solutions here.
Yes, we are.
Do you all agree that Black women are unprotected, male or female? Do you agree or disagree? What I noticed, I did a poll in the Building Black community, and what we noticed was that majority of women that voted did feel unprotected.
Okay.
The majority of women that voted.
Okay.
And there were very few men that agreed with that statement that Black women are the most unprotected. All right. So now let's go on to some of the stats. And for anybody that wants to debate this statistic, we got the stats, okay, of whether Black women are unprotected or not.
But also, before you give the stats, the Black men that are watching right now, do you feel the opposite? Do you feel like, we are protected? Do you feel the opposite? And if you do, do you disagree? And if you do disagree, can you give reasons why you disagree?
Who's going to be the bold male to say that they disagree?
Right, exactly.
Stand firm in your position. Let me give some stats. So,
okay, hold on. Jason says if Black men are targets themselves, it makes sense that would be the case.
Not sure what you're saying, but what would be the case? If Black men are targets themselves, it would make sense that Black women are targets as well?
I think that's what he's trying to say.
Okay.
But can you clarify, Jason?
Okay, so here are our statistics. According to the Institute of Women's Policy Research and their Status of Black Women in the United States report, the Institute for Women's Policy Research. That's an organization that does policy and research for all women, not just Black women. Right. So it doesn't have a bias that's skewed towards Black women.
Got it.
They're just telling us the facts as they have researched. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
You're just the messenger.
I'm just the messenger.
Right. Okay.
So they state that 40% of Black women will experience intimate partner violence compared to 31.5% of women of other races. So intimate partner violence at the hands of husbands, boyfriends, those lovers, those we're involved with.
Okay, now we don't know if those men were Black.
Not necessarily.
Okay, but just in general as a whole,
yes,
the 40% have experienced some sort of violence.
Right. Okay. Versus 31.5% of other women.
Okay.
Okay. The National Center for Victims of Crime found that 53.8% of Black women will experience psychological abuse. So that's about half.
Okay.
Okay. While 41.2% will experience physical abuse. So going back, that lines up with the 40% from the other organization. Right. 41.2. So right around 40%, that's the number that we tend to see. So is it happening? And when you think about the number, it's actually staggering because out of every 10 Black women that you meet, at least 4 of them have experienced some form of intimate partner violence. Wow. That's what the research says. Okay. You want to share the other statistic?
Where are we at? The national?
The 2.5.
Okay, Black women are 2.5% more likely to be killed by what's IPF?
IPV,
Intimate partner violence
Mm-hmm.
than white women.
Right.
Ooh.
So 2.5% more likely. I believe intimate partner violence is one of the leading causes of death for Black women. Higher than, or right up there with cancer and heart issues. There's intimate partner violence.
Wow.
Okay. So those are the numbers that we can't argue with.
No.
So when we ask, are Black women the most unprotected?
It's true.
Of the women, at least we are. And not that we're trying to be victims or wear this victim, thing.
Right.
But we have to acknowledge the facts, because if we don't acknowledge the facts, we can't fix it.
Exactly. So Black men, we don't have that many in here, but the ones that are here, again, how do you feel about those stats? Right? So some of you might argue and say, it's not true. Black men are protected. Black women, are protected. But the stats that we just read off, how do you feel about that?
Mm-hmm.
What comments would you make about that?
All right. Another comment that I have to share from one of our Building Black community members was from Jihad Shakur. I told him I would ask this question because
is he here?
I don't think he's here. I haven't seen him.
Okay.
I told him I would ask though.
Okay.
So he says, so I ask you, what is the percentage rate of that same baby mother or girlfriend leaving that boyfriend or baby's father for a better or safer relationship? So he was saying, if a man jumps into an altercation when he's watching another Black man abuse a Black woman, and he jumps in, what's the percentage rate of the likelihood that she's going to actually leave him after that? Okay. Is it fair that Black men lose their blood, their freedom, or their very lives for women that's just going to go right back to the abusive man anyway? That
Black
was his
man.
question. Is it fair? What's the chances that she's actually going to leave him? And is it fair for us to have to jump in?
I don't know. That question honestly left me speechless. I don't know the answer. I understand where Jihad is coming from. Jihad, I get it. I don't know what the answer to that would be. I'm trying to lean on the Black men that's here and that's watching right now. What do you guys think about that comment?
I have my own thoughts. You don't know?
Go ahead.
I know.
Tell the people.
Listen. It goes back to the Willie Lynch letter. The Black man stands behind, scared, and the Black woman stands in front. When we think about movements, when we think about Black Lives Matter, we see some of these Black women standing up in a dress in front of a police guard.
They put their lives on the line
to protect her community of Black men.
Okay.
Like I'm getting
playing devil's advocate. Yeah. Calm down.
I'm getting worked up.
Calm down, sis. But what Jihad is saying is that so if a Black man speaks up in a situation where there is maybe DV, domestic violence, and he speaks up, or he even throws himself in the situation, he's putting himself in line, and then she's gonna just go back to her abuser.
Right.
I think that's what he's.
I get that's what he's saying, but what I'm saying is, I don't know. This might sound cheesy, but like, I would like for our men to have this mentality of being warriors. Like, yeah, I'm going to go and stand up for this woman who's weaker than me, even if she's not going to leave him or whatever. I'm not going to sit there and watch some woman that's a weaker counterpart physically be abused by a man that I could potentially take on. Okay. It's a mindset thing. So when we go back to the Willie Lynch letter and we talk about these men being broken mentally, right? I think it goes back to that. Like, yes, as a man, I can't tell men how to be men, but I feel like can't. As a man, what I would like to see, how I want my son to be raised, and even me thinking I could lose him if he has this mentality, but I want him to be raised to be like a warrior in his mind. That I'm going to protect those that are weaker than me, regardless.
What y'all think?
I mean, so yes, she could go back. Yes, she could use your life, but this is what it is.
Okay, Jason said just like the letter you read, just The letter, I think he's saying letter. You read, explained. Black men are purposely emasculated so we can protect a woman. T says, even if I believe that black men are more protective than women think, all that matters is how women feel. Come on, brother. Come on with the word.
That's true. That is how we feel.
Come on with the word, Tyron.
And there needs to be an acknowledgement that if we don't feel that way, then something might need to be addressed. If your wife doesn't feel loved in the marriage, it might be up to you to figure out, well, why doesn't she feel that way? I love her, but why does she feel that way?
Right. You read the next comment.
By Tyron?
Tyron,
okay,
yeah.
Tyron. He says, black men, the protectors of black women, are eliminated in the hostile society we live in. Unemployment, mass incarceration, etc. And that's true.
That's true.
That's true. And we don't want to overlook that. But I'm curious, Tyron, how does that factor into the conversation about black women being protected? I think that, maybe they're not able to be present.
I think that's what he's saying.
Is that what he's saying? That they're not present?
Well, yeah, because he talks about, he mentioned unemployment, mass incarceration. Yeah. So I think, Tyron, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what he's saying.
Okay.
That they're not there to protect because of the other issues that they've had to deal with.
Right. Okay.
I think.
So, in my mind, to go back to what Jihad asked, in my mind.
Oh yeah. Jihad, you.
If you a warrior,
that question.
You. It's how you've been conditioned. You can't see a woman be disrespected in front of you.
Regardless of what the result is going to be, regardless of you stepping in, and it could be fatal, depending on what that's what you're saying.
Am I tripping?
I don't know. I don't know.
How would you raise your son? How
I
would you
I
want
would
your
hope
son
to,
to
I
be
would
raised?
hope him. I would hope that he can make the best decision he can. The best decision for him in that situation.
What does that mean?
He's gonna have to, whatever situation he comes across. He's gonna have to make a split decision if he's gonna want to jump in,
right,
and interject. That's his decision. I would want him to make the best decision in that situation.
Well,
I hope I raise him
right.
But you talking about my son? I don't want something to happen to my son. If we're gonna, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
of course you don't want anything to happen.
But that's what I think that's what it goes back to. You jump in, and it could be a situation where it's fatal. Then what?
Yes, it could be.
It could be. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is.
Worst case scenario.
Right.
That's absolute worst case scenario.
It happens though.
It does.
People jump in situations and things happen.
And so
we need, what we need?
What?
We need Jihad to come on here.
We do need Jihad.
to clarify.
Well, I think
we do.
Well, to his credit, I could say Jihad has that warrior mindset, because part of the reason he asked this question was because he has gotten involved in witnessing domestic disputes, and I think he was injured as a result of it.
Well.
So
would he do it again?
He's asking because that was his experience. So to your credit, Jihad, it sounds like to me you have that warrior mindset, and I hope that trauma that you've endured doesn't shift that, because we need people that's gonna stand up, speak up, stand up, right? And also, we do. We'll get to that. I was gonna say check other black men. We'll get to that in a second. I agree. Okay. T said, Kiever said, I agree with Jay and Tyron.
Okay, Key.
T said, like I said last week, there are more men out here like that than not. The non-warriors, don't make fun of me, T. All right? Yeah. Get all the attention. Okay, we're going to talk about that.
The negative,
yeah. The negative attention. We're going to talk about that.
The strong brothers get little to no attention. Yeah.
But Jihad, I want to give you props for that, because it sounds like you've been trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So moving on, okay. Where were we?
We're gonna ask, how can black women feel more protected? Okay. The black women that are on. What can we, we keep saying it. What can we tell black men around us? What can they do or can be doing for us to feel, or for you to feel more protected? What would
you need to see in order to be more protected?
You want to take? You can read the comments.
All right. Jay says, I think that's true. We don't hear when the good things happen as much as the bad things. I think there's a lot of men doing the right thing. If a man has experience with helping women, and the woman from that man's experience ends up going back, then you feel like your energy is wasted, almost pointless. Okay?
Okay.
Lillian says the black man is not
Lillian.
going to protect the black women, which is a very sad situation. I want to go back to what Keever said.
Okay.
I think that I get that. I understand what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the same time, the work has to goes back to black women, and we need to be training each other, training our daughters, educating ourselves on how to be whole and how not to tolerate and accept abuse.
Right.
Because for some of us that's normal.
Right. Unfortunately,
physical violence. We grew up in households, where there's physical discipline, and even that can psychological abuse.
Yeah.
That can go back to slavery, where we learn that's how the way that we get respect and get our children to respect us is through physical means.
Right.
So black women do it is our responsibility to choose better and to when the first time that man shows you a sign of violence, then you got to get out. So from a collective, we have to work on strengthening ourselves and making good decisions.
Right.
But that doesn't exclude the problem.
Right.
It just doesn't exclude the problem.
At all.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So we want to hear from the women. What are your thoughts in terms of how you can feel more protected? What do you think needs to happen in order for you to feel more protected? So we want to hear that from you all. You can be putting that into the comments. So I think the first thing is a Kwanzaa principle. So the principle of Ujima. You know what?
No, actually I don't.
No? Okay, she got an African shirt, but then the Kwanzaa principle.
Well, listen, I don't celebrate Kwanzaa though.
I really don't either.
Yeah.
I go here and there to,
some of their principles and things like that.
Right, but it's not something that I celebrate, like where I know it back and forth.
Okay.
But there is a Kwanzaa principle, collective responsibility, Ujima. And so it's this idea that we are all responsible for each other. And I think that the implications of slavery, racism, have really broken that down in us. This responsibility for each other, this collective. Right. And it's more of individual, Western culture where it's, the focus is on me and my family, my direct, my kids, my direct descendants, and that's it. Right. I don't care about who across the street. I'm gonna mind my business, keep my head down, and do what I need to do to survive. But we have to break free of that, I think, if we're going to ultimately thrive. When we think about other communities, the way they come together, Jewish community comes together, Asian community comes together. They pool their resources. Yeah. They come together and they provide a strong network that keeps them safe and keeps them well. Yeah.
This next one, we talk about how can black women feel more protected, and for me, I would like black men to refuse to speak negatively about black women publicly. It really, and I guess I'm skipping down, but it really boils my blood because I feel like black men are the only ones that have to have this need to voice their dislike or their hate against black women. I don't see personally, I remember I asked you the other day, I don't see any other race do it but black men, but it's always this need to have to say what black women are not, and I always feel like it's publicly. If you have these feelings about black women, you're entitled to your feeling. It's not your preference, you don't like them. But in other cases, it's fine. You're entitled to feel how you feel. But I always feel like it's always this not negative, but this public thing where I have to go on here and say to the world, I hate black women, or black women are not A, B, C, D. But this other group of women are... X, Y, and Z. Right. Where you could have just kept that thought to yourself. Like it could have been how you felt. Maybe you said it to the people around you, and that was that. And they go out of their way, it seems like, to tear black women as a collective down. And then it's always this, but I didn't. Well, some of them, not all of them. But I didn't mean it like that. Or, it's just the way. But why did you feel the need to say it in the first place publicly? Right. That's my thing. Right. And we can tie this into the first one, protecting more than just you and yours. You wouldn't let someone speak negatively about your daughter,
about your sister. But black women as a whole, you can turn and look the other way or say that's just so and so. That's just him. He's just being social, or his opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
No, that's not acceptable.
No, it's not. I agree.
Right.
It's not. I agree. 100. You want to go back to the comments?
All right. Tyron says, well, yeah, let's go in order here. Lillian says the only way is to protect yourself. That's how she feels. She feels like, I guess it sounds like she doesn't feel like she can depend on black women black men to protect her. She has to protect herself.
That's powerful.
Right?
Yeah.
Tyron, have either of you ladies read Powernomics? It completely explains our current situation as a people and how to get out. I actually,
you're reading that now, aren't you?
I'm reading it now. I'm about
I have
halfway
not
through.
yet. I'm going to read it when she's done.
I think that he does go to the group collective mentality. That's one thing that he talks about, becoming more of a collective in the book. And yeah. Let's see what Jason says. When they are with the other race, they don't do that to them. This is what Lillian says. Jason says it's a part of hating yourself. Why some of the men talk like that? They are hating themselves.
I agreed.
I agree with that.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you've been conditioned to believe that something different than you is better, and you don't even realize it. Right? So, when Marv talks about refusing to speak negatively about black women publicly, we have all of these examples, and I was going to pull them up and put them together, but I didn't have the time. We're still a little production. We're getting ourselves together. So next time we'll as we grow, we'll have these audios and clips. But there are countless examples of men publicly, a lot of them in the hip hop community, which is a whole conversation in and of itself, just denigrating black women. We have Kodak Black saying he just doesn't prefer dark-skinned women or women who look like him because they tend to be angry and loud. We have go ahead.
The thing about that, someone may say, it's Kodak Black. Who cares?
Yeah.
I care. You care. That little girl that hears it cares. It matters. Yeah, it's just Kodak Black. He's whatever. But the fact that he
has a
feels the need to go and say, I don't remember exactly what he said. I think he just said that he didn't like dark skinned women.
He doesn't like dark skinned women.
Right.
Women
or he don't
like him.
Of his complexion. But again, it's not why do we care this person is saying it. It's wow, again, another black man is with a platform is saying what he don't like and why he don't like, and it's just
and when you hear it time after time after time, it, at least me personally, some people are able to shake it off, but me personally, it weighs on me.
I know.
So there's Kodak Black, Trick Daddy. He said, if white and Hispanic women learn how to make fried chicken, black women are going to be obsolete.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
50 Cent and Lil Wayne had a conversation. They were kikiing and laughing about black women being angry and then
loud.
And then the football player, I don't know what his name was, made the comment about Jill Scott. The tweet. What did he say?
He just said, "Does anyone really find Jill Scott attractive?"
Right.
Why?
So why? Now there's these conversations, and we can say they're just rappers. It doesn't matter, but the tone of the conversation and the way in which you talk about people matters. Just think about the tone of the conversation of the media over the years when it comes to black people. How they show certain images of us, they may show images of us with hoodies on and it just, the tone, the way they reference us, fact or not fact, it kind of just shapes how our mind, how people view us,
right? Because
of how they refer to us, the images that they put out,
right?
So when the tone of the conversation is that these women are ugly, these women are loud, these women are invaluable, obsolete, angry, it affects things. Some of you might remember, Mark brought this up, some of you might remember, I think it was earlier this year, it was a viral video on Instagram and Facebook. A woman hairstylist was doing a little girl's hair, a little dark-skinned black girl. She was about 4 maybe. And she said, and you could feel it, she felt it deep in her soul. The little girl said, I'm ugly. And the hairstylist stopped and really just poured into this little girl. what would a little girl of 4 years old, what has she internalized to believe it? It really sounded like she believed it to the depths of her soul.
Yeah,
something told her that, she was just ugly.
Yeah.
And I think that some of it is a result of just the conversation that we see.
You want to read Tyron's?
Okay, Tyron says, those artists are given a platform by people who don't look like us. It's a part of the distraction, keeping us separate, men versus women.
Some truth there.
I agree with that.
I
agree with that. But Tyron, are you saying that what they say doesn't matter? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Although they're given a platform by people who don't, and even some of those who do look like us, or no, even some of those people who, some of these rappers who they've been out for a while, they're controlling more of their own narrative and more of their own music. Are they shifting the narrative?
Right.
Your I guess your P. Diddy's, is he still making music?
I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, I think he's doing other stuff. Running a TV network.
Jay-Z, I think his tone has shifted.
Yeah, I think so a little bit.
He's with Beyonce, so.
Yeah, now he has 2 daughters.
Right.
Right? He's a different place in his life, right? So.
So changing the language, and this goes back to black men, you all checking each other and checking the black men in your circles who do things like this, rather than just minimizing or shifting the focus to the good black men. Yes, we know there are good black men out there. It's the same as when white people shift the focus from bad cops to the good cops. Well, there's good cops out there. Not everybody is shooting black people. Yeah, but we're talking about the ones that are.
Hello?
We can't just ignore it because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right, exactly.
So we can't just ignore that and skip over and say, but there's good men that's doing things. No, we have to acknowledge the ones that aren't doing what they're supposed to do and check them. And us as women checking them isn't going to do anything.
We can't do it.
But when your brothers is doing it and holding you accountable.
Absolutely, it's different.
It's a different tone.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay. And also, you want to go to the next one?
Yes. Understand that rappers, we just talked about this, but basically understanding that rappers and hip hop culture sets the tone for black people, unfortunately. And yes, we could say it's just music or it's just entertainment. I think they do set the tone for the culture as a whole.
Right.
Even though it's just entertainment.
They influence the culture.
Yes.
They influence it. We can't deny it.
We can't deny it.
Unfortunately, this weekend we just lost Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Absolutely.
But I think he's a phenomenal example of how media, culture, celebrity platforms can shift the culture in the positive way. So when Black Panther came out, in all of the black excellence in that movie, the Denai, Lupita Nyong'o, was it Ryan Coogler? Is he the director?
Yeah.
And Chadwick Boseman, Forrest Whitaker, Angela Bassett, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
When they came out and they created this story, and there was all this conversation about Wakanda and black excellence, and the excellence that we saw in that movie.
Yeah.
And the way in which we were referring to black people, and the like I said, the tone of the conversation and being around black excellence, it created a sense of pride in us.
Yeah.
So that celebrity
still does.
Right, it still does.
Yeah.
It meant something. So we can't say that if it could mean something in a negative, it can also mean, if a celebrity in media can mean something in the negative, it can also, in the positive, it can also mean something in the negative.
Absolutely.
And we can't deny that. You all hear my Winnie is here. The Building Black mascot. I'm gonna
She vicious, y'all.
You hear her in the background. I'm gonna have her make a little cameo.
Oh no.
She hears something. Y'all say hi to Winnie.
I can't.
the Building Black mascot. So she's making noise in the background. Let me put her down. That was Winnie. So
you want to read the comments?
We have to understand that rap culture and hip hop culture and celebrity images, they matter. Those conversations matter.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Lillian.
Go ahead.
No, you can read it.
All right. Lillian says, hello, black men. If you are on this platform, at the end of the day, you guys are black in the story. Pick yourself up and let's stand together like our other races, because it's time. We are your daughters, your sisters, your mothers.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yes, it is time.
All right. T says, let's be honest. Men have to check ourselves and black women need to check themselves as well. I agree.
I agree.
Yep. I think Tyron is saying that they make the negative comments louder to keep us separated.
Agreed. I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that because it does.
Right.
It's louder. It is louder. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it does separate us.
Right. I agree. I agree.
I agree with that. But we have to do better.
Right.
That's basically the point. We have to do better.
And in order to do better, we have to acknowledge that it's happening, and we understand why it's happening.
We
what
do.
What are we going to do to fix it?
Right.
So we're saying there has to be a collective responsibility. It's more than just protecting you and yours. Refuse to speak negatively about black men. Black men check other black men when they're doing this, rather than minimizing it or shifting the focus to good black men.
Right.
Okay, don't be like those cops.
Exactly.
Understand that rappers and hip hop culture sets the tone for people. So when we're deciding who we support, and whether or not we minimize what they say, we have to have that understanding. And also, you want to go to the last one?
The last one we have here is believing / hearing us the first time. We have here Keke Palmer. There was a situation where I think she had came out maybe a couple years ago or years. I'm not sure when it happened, but she basically came out and said that Trey Songz, she was sexually intimidated by him. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we can speculate what that means. And people were asking her why and what happened, and it didn't happen. And I think recently some women have came out and said basically the same thing.
Now these were white women.
These were white women, absolutely. So it's also, even with Meg Thee Stallion, we talked about this last week. Her being shot in the foot by Tory Lanez, and her being asked all these questions, and again with the victim shaming and what did she do, and did it really happen? And, or what did she do to deserve that treatment? And I think that it's just we want to be heard at least and believed when we come out and say something happened. It happened, and it's not until a white woman or another woman from another race says X, Y, and Z, then it's like, that did happen. When she had said the same thing, Keke Palmer, in the first place.
I think if we had taken seriously what was coming out with R. Kelly early on.
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother combo.
And the molestation and the allegations against R. Kelly early on, he wouldn't have gotten to have as many victims as he did.
Yeah, well, I mean that is
I think had that been a white celebrity with little white girls, he would have been locked up early.
Fast.
Right?
Yep. It wouldn't have got to where it got with R. Kelly.
Right.
Because R. Kelly was almost 20 something years, 20 plus years.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I agree with that.
So, believing us and hearing us when we say we've been victimized, hearing it and believing it early on.
And it's just, it's like, well, why when we say something, we're second guessed? Why? Why is it that when we say something, we are not believed? Why? What is the difference? We could be saying the exact same thing as, a white woman or a Hispanic or whatever the case might be, and it's always the black woman is lying or the black woman is this and that. Why? Why that narrative? I don't understand.
And I won't act as if this isn't a problem that women of all races don't experience. I think that's why there's been a lot of movement around the Me Too movement and everything, and believing victims.
Right.
But obviously, we're speaking specifically in the black community, and I think that if we're talking about who's most unprotected and who's less likely to be believed, it's gonna be us.
It's gonna be us.
It's gonna be us.
Absolutely, hands down.
Right.
Yep.
But there's a problem overall of men just not believing, or society, not even just men, not believing women when they speak out about crimes that have been committed against them, especially sexual crimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So those are our 5. You want to recap?
You can recap.
All right. Collective responsibility, protecting more than just yours, refusing to speak negatively about black women publicly, checking the black men who do this, men checking themselves, policing themselves, understanding that hip hop culture set the tone for us, and believing and hearing us the first time when we speak out about crimes that have been committed against us.
Mm-hmm.
Big story, or kind of the overall message for me is to shift the tone. When you hear conversations on social media, or in your circle, there should be a shift in the tone of the conversation. That well, what can we, as opposed to why do they feel this way? There's a lot of good black men out there. Well, what can we do to make them feel more protected? Are you mentoring black boys and teaching them these types of principles? Are you teaching them to be nonviolent, how to manage their emotions? Are you teaching them how to protect their families? Those are other things.
Right. That's a whole nother topic.
Right. But I think, how we teach our kids is going to be a big part of this.
Absolutely, I agree.
And Lillian says it right here, one of our last comments. Brothers, help your brother.
Simple.
Yeah, simple. And
Sister
sisters, help your sister.
Yeah.
But exactly. I feel like, honestly, and it could be just me, but I'm a host and I can say it. I feel like black women are on their game. They're going to therapy. They're starting all these women's empowerment organizations.
Yeah.
Nonprofits, starting businesses. Like, we are really, really making an effort to do the work to be better.
Right. You think black men are not?
I'm not saying that.
What?
But I'm just saying we doing.
What you saying?
I feel that we are doing the work. I can't speak for what they're doing because I'm not a black man. I'm
okay,
not in their
that's
circles
fair.
and their comings and goings.
That's
but
fair.
I feel like black
that's
women
fair.
are making an effort to really improve ourselves and to heal ourselves.
I think I see, like, on social media, I see black men at least trying to acknowledge the trauma, mental health matters, getting the help that they need, addressing this trauma, going to therapy more. I see it a little bit more than before, maybe because of the climate and the time that we're in. It's just now is the time to just heal.
Right.
And so I can say I see it a little bit with the black men.
Do you think that black women are doing more?
I feel like, I won't say more. I just feel like the black women that I know have just always been on their shit. I'm sorry. I can't say that we have ever. I won't say ever. I just feel like the black woman that I know, and even just some of the women that I don't, I see them moving and pushing. So, I can't say I'm starting to see black men though. I think they trying. I think they trying little by little.
Now, he said, "Of course you think that." I don't know if he was referring to me or you. Maybe
I'm not
both
sure.
of us.
Clarify, brother.
Lillian says, "Brothers, please help your brother because iron sharpens iron. We can do this together. Please praise us in public and criticize us in private."
Ooh, preach.
So it sounds like that's what she's saying would help her to feel more protected.
But I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my whole thing.
Yeah. I think we both need to do this. Both.
You think black women and black men need to do that?
Yeah, we need to abide by that rule.
Yeah.
Praise in public and criticize in private.
Yeah, you don't have to put it all out.
Right.
On the internet.
Which is also part of the reason why I wanted to make this Building Black. We made this Building Black conversation and community a private Facebook group because it's not meant for everybody to hear.
I agree.
Right. Oh, T said Katie. Yeah, of course I feel that way. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that black men aren't doing their. I'm just saying I think black women are doing.
But I feel like we always have.
Sound like he disagrees.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he disagrees or not, but I feel like black women have always had. And I understand the obstacles too that black men have to overcome. I'm not discounting that.
Right.
But I do believe that I think they starting to realize. Listen, we need to. Our black women out here doing it. We need to get on our game.
Well,
I do think that
maybe it goes back to that Willie Lynch letter that we had been conditioned to be independent. Because of seeing our men broken in front of us, over time we've been conditioned to be independent and to take care of ourselves.
Right.
Whereas, if we're going to go back to that letter in historical reference, that's how it makes sense.
Right.
Whereas the man hasn't been conditioned in that way. He's more conditioned to be dependent.
I'm trying to read what T's saying. Maybe next episode will be more pro strong black men. I'll tune in for that. Listen. I don't know what you want me to say.
But again, this is, I think to kind of summarize, these conversations are not easy to have.
No, they're not.
And this is not about bashing Black men.
No, absolutely
not. But we
not.
are talking about the truth of our experience.
Right.
And we have to talk about the negative. I feel like that is no different than a white person having a difficult time sitting and hearing about racism. And that might be a non-racist or less racist, you can say, black white person.
Right.
They'll feel, well, I'm a good person, and all of the white people I see around me they're doing the right thing, and it's hard for them to sit and hear about another person's pain that's associated with their counterparts.
Right.
So I get that it's not easy to hear. We're not making Black men to be the enemy, but we're talking about those that do need to be addressed, those behaviors and those issues and those men that do need to be addressed. We can't gloss over it and say let's only focus on the good stuff, because the bad stuff is real.
It is, and we need to get on one accord.
How do we? My question for T: How do we address it if we don't talk about it? And what's the solution in your mind? Any other men want to comment on that? If we don't talk
Jason
about
at?
it,
Jason, where you at?
So, I don't have anything else, Margaret.
I think we covered it all. It's just about having these conversations, these honest conversations, and we must continue to have them, and we must continue to come up with solutions, for us to build and keep building.
Tyrone says we're each one side of the same coin. We can't win if we both don't win.
That's a fact.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
And that's the whole purpose behind these conversations and the whole purpose behind the Building Black community. We want to see Black people win.
Period.
We want to see everybody win, but in
Black
the group,
folks,
we're talking about black folks.
Exactly.
We want to see Black folks win because we've had so much to overcome.
That's a fact.
And we are so resilient. But there are things that we struggle with. So how do we address it? This is really more so addressing our focus on Black love, getting Black men and Black women on the same page so we can love each other better. This is a conversation that needs to be had.
Yep, I agree.
Right.
Okay, so
T said, do we have time for that tonight?
Not tonight.
Do we have time for what do you think the solution? No, we want to hear from you. What do you think the solution is?
Oh, the solution for what? The question for what?
Yeah, the question I just asked. I said if we can't focus on what the negative things that are happening at the hands of men, Black men, whoever.
Right.
If we can't focus on that and shine a light on it, then how do we solve the issue of Black women feeling unprotected and being unprotected? Because it's not just a feeling when you look at the statistics. How do we solve it? We can't just keep putting it back on there's good Black men out there. Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, we do know that.
We're not denying that.
Right, and we've experienced that.
I got a good father.
Yeah, you do.
I got a good brother.
You do.
And
you do. You've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and same for you. So, if there's no other comments, we're gonna hang around for another minute or so.
Yeah.
You want to do another plug for So Fresh, So Clean?
No, I think we did all the plugs.
I think you got to do another plug.
I think we did. I think T actually put in the. I think he put it in the comments too.
They might be picking
Fresh,
up
So
at the end of
Clean.
the conversation.
If you need any clean, thank you, sisters. Great conversation. Thank you. If you need your house cleaned, contact So Fresh, So Clean. The website is thefreshsoclean.com. Check out the website. Book. You will get $35 off your first cleaning with the code Legacy. Just put the code Legacy on in all caps there's a code spot right there, and you will get $35 off your first cleaning.
And that's for people in the New Jersey area?
That's for people in the New Jersey area. All over New Jersey.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So it looks like that's all as far as our comments. Thank you all for tuning in. Marv, did you enjoy the conversation?
I did. He just put
Be So Fresh, So Clean.
Thank you. Yes, I did enjoy the conversation. Learned a little bit. We're going to keep going. Please tune in next week. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. We'll be here to discuss Building Black.
Thank you guys. We love you for listening. Take care.
Thank you.